Next up, we have Amber Case. She's the director of Esri's R&D Center in Portland, where she works on next-generation location-based technology. Previously, she co-founded Geoloki, a location-based software company acquired by Esri in 2012.
Hi everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about designing calm technology and what that means. First, everybody knows this quote that there's going to be 50 billion devices coming online by 2020. But if you actually think through that, think to an era in which there are all those devices, what actually happens? Like, is this really an awesome thing or not? Well, consider that we already have a lot of devices that are pushing us information all the time. Lots of different alerts. We have our devices that require us sometimes on a 3-day time scale or a 10-day time scale or even a half-a-day time scale to plug them into the wall and feed them. They require a lot of energy and caretaking, and they're really not necessarily very well behaved. So the smartwatch can give you lots of different alerts. People talk about again and again for the past 30 years the smart fridge that knows everything in the fridge, and somehow you're getting that data in there from $5 disposable RFIDs, and there's an RFID reader in your fridge, and then it tells you that the apple is rotten. Like, can't you just look at the apple and see that it's actually rotten? Or you have all these different displays, and then it's telling you what to get on the way home. But what if it's the wrong thing? Oftentimes the computers are making decisions for you, not on your own behalf, but because some random designer who had a really good idea of it got buy-off from a venture capitalist, and then some manager said, well, you should do it this way because this is the stereotypical way that we've heard about it for the last 20 years. And so there's a lot of these dystopian scenarios that I can think of when there are 50 billion devices that are all connected in various different ways that are all trying to connect. If I get into my car and something wants to pair with 5 different things in the car that all run on Bluetooth, which one has priority? Right? How do I set that up? I need to be the one in control, technically, right? I don't need to have the thing trying to pair all the time. Now, if there's only one Bluetooth device in my car, I want it to pair, right? Because it's the music, and I want it to automatically start. And I've got a good device like that, but it's out of trial and error from lots of different devices. So I think of this kind of dystopian kitchen of the future. People talk about this a lot. Many different companies, they say, we're going to have all these devices in your kitchen, and they're going to tell you, that you should. That here's a new recipe for your microwave, for instance, and you should do this thing, and now there's this alert, and basically your entire time is not actually feeding yourself and cooking. It's just clicking OK, cancel on all of these different pop-up windows that keep coming up. And I tried to display this with different kinds of icons to show that there's different companies making different kinds of alerts, and you don't really know what kind of alert you're going to get, nor can you actually set the alert. And if you have to do that and unsubscribe from all the different email newsletters that you're going to get from signing up to all these different companies by simply buying their technology, it doesn't make a lot of sense. This is why a lot of people are trying to get mid-century modern furnishings, because it's just designed in a way that's quiet and basic. So we have entered into an era not of relaxing technology that empowers us and gets out of the way when we don't need it anymore and lets us live, more of our lives and actually use, less technology. It is an era of interruptive technology. It gets on our way. We try to turn on the Apple TV, but we accidentally click the system update button, and because our internet connection might be down or might be slow because everybody else is trying to download the same update that they automatically clicked on, then we have to wait for 30 minutes to have our television, right? That, versus a television over the airwaves, which you just have television, maybe you don't have as much choice. So instead of an era of interruptive technology, I argue that we need an era of calm technology. And this is really just a resurrection, not even a resurrection, of an idea that came from Xerox PARC, from John Seely Brown and Mark Weiser, which is the idea that technology should get out of the way and let you live your life. It should be there when you need it and not when you don't. It should calm and inform and bring information to you through other senses instead of being in your face all of the time. There are many different ways to design technology. So this is Mark Weiser. He passed away in 1999. He is not around to tell his story, and I really just want to tell his story. John Seeley Brown is still with us. They've written a number of papers along with Rich Gold at Xerox PARC. Really, the interesting stuff starts in the mid-90s on calm technology. This is one of the papers, so you can actually go, if you go to calmtechnology.com and go to the papers link, I have a reprint of this paper there that you can read. But this is really the seminal paper about the coming age of calm technology. Really, the idea behind it is that technology shouldn't require all of our attention. We can compress that into different spaces and just some of it, and only when necessary. And this is really about empowering the periphery. So the periphery, our peripheral attention is quite large. We have this whole sphere. And so we can use that for ambient alerts and things like that. And so we can be more aware of things with way less cognitive overhead. So calm technology is defined as something that can just move from the periphery to the center and back again very smoothly. If I see an alert or some status change, I should be able to tell just from seeing in the periphery whether it's important or not and whether I should direct it to my center focus of attention. So if we place things in the periphery, we can be attuned to many more things, a much higher resolution of things and simultaneous things without having our attention drawn to one alert at a time. So let's take the humble tea kettle, for example. You set this thing up with water, you forget it, you go into another room, and it in the periphery does something, alerts you when it's done, calls your attention to it, and you go back and take the kettle off the stove. This is the most basic, simple case of calm technology. The bathroom sign, like if you're on an airplane and you see out of the corner of your eye that the sign has changed color, you know that you can go use the restroom. Another example of calm technology. There's not a display in a particular language. There's not an LED screen. It's just a light. This was an interesting thing that Natalie Germanjenko and Mark Weiser made at Park Research called the live wire. And it would twist and twirl around and move based on the network activity that was going on at Park at the time. And so you can actually see what was going on in the network by this visual and kind of auditory system. You don't even have to look at it. You could just hear, and, oh, somebody's really, they're downloading a file on the network or they're uploading something. So I think of this kind of technology sine wave where we've gone from far to near and back again. So if we look at mainframes being the start of this era where you have to go to your local college to use a computer and you have a timeshare, to workstations that take it a little bit closer and more convenient, to the desktop computer where everybody has their own kind of personal mainframe in their own house, and then we went back far away on the internet where you're having remote servers. And now we're in the remote mainframe or cloud era where we're just time sharing on mainframes again. And then we're trying to get a little bit more back with mobile where sometimes you're doing processing on a mobile phone. And now, if we go follow the sine curve, we get into the personal server era. The big problem is that all the devices right now are being made by hardware manufacturers that are also trying to design these closed ecosystems. And you have a bunch of different hardware devices that don't really speak the same language. And so you can't even get to the contextual stage that you would be able to enable really good calm computing. Like if I'm driving in a car, don't text, don't have people text me, but send them a message that says I'm driving and, I'll get back to you later or something like that. So if you re-centralize this and have the personal server in the middle, you have hardware manufacturers do a great job at what they do, and then you have third-party software developers make the aggregator services and analysis services, and those can be the ones that take this context. So designing calm technology, 2 principles to remember. 1, a technology should inform and calm. It should make you feel calm while you're using the technology while also being informative. It doesn't have to draw all of your attention. It can make use of the periphery to give that attention to you. And a little tech really goes a long way. If you design for people first and you don't make machines that act like humans and humans that act like machines, you really amplify the best part of each. Google search results does a lot of computation in the background and gives you, as the last mile human curator, a choice of results, not your absolute result. This is really important to remember. Technology can communicate, but it doesn't need to speak. There are a number of different ways that you can deliver information to people. The Jawbone Up is really great because there's no user display. You can actually set an alarm and it'll wake you up in the optimum sleep cycle with a buzz. It has a light that tells you whether it needs battery charge or not. It's completely quiet and calm, and it uses one button on the top. So you can create ambient awareness through these different senses, through haptics, buzzing, auditory alerts, through a light status. Just one light can do a lot. You can blink the light. You can have just one light. You don't need to integrate all these things. Positive or negative tones. The Roomba is fantastic. It doesn't say, I'm done cleaning the floor. It goes da-da-da if it's done. And it gives you if you're actually, if it's actually stuck and can't do anything. And then Mark Weiser talks about inner office windows, so you can actually see if somebody's busy or not without bothering them. So in conclusion, a person's primary task should really be being human and not interacting with all of their technology. And if we can design more calm technology, then we will be calmed and informed by our technology by making use of the periphery instead of getting really stressed out all the time with it. So if you want to learn more, I just launched a site called calmtechnology.com. It's really just a tribute to Mark Weiser. You can download papers and all that stuff is on there. And there's a feedback form if you actually worked with Mark Weiser and there's something wrong on the site. Please let me know. I want to make it accurate. I want to represent the ideas and opinions of these people in the best way possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
Thanks for the great talk. I have a question. So you talk about personal servers coming in 2016 to 2020. So how do you exploit wisdom of crowds and common knowledge among the masses if you have your own personal servers and not the cloud?
That's an interesting question. I think one of the things is to remember that it doesn't have to be just having a personal server that does all of the computation there, but you're offloading a lot of the computation to a device that's near you, right? Instead of going to the cloud, the remote mainframe timeshare for it, and that you still connect to specific things at those specific moments in which you need to access something like Wikipedia or you need to look up something or the most recent information. That's the time in which you would connect to the cloud. But if you don't need that, you should be offloading as much of that processing as you can to your local server, because the biggest issue with 50 billion devices is that it'd be network. How do we get that much network connectivity? So if we're doing the minimum amount of querying possible at those points and being very intelligent about it, I think it'll be really great. And it's why right now we have really bloated systems. Right, we've got these giant multi-megabyte websites. The future is going to be about making the most minimal interface with like the tightest code. And so right now we're not really practicing that. Right, we're kind of practicing it a little bit on mobile, but it's going to become increasingly important. So thank you for your question.
Thank you for a great presentation. I wanted to ask if there are any good analog examples of calm technology, like a whistling kettle, for instance. Like, what other examples you can share?
Yeah, there's a few on the site. There's that the inner office window, for instance, and then there's the tea kettle. I've been trying to find more and more of them and list them. If you think of any or ask anybody, just click on the feedback part on the site and be like, hey, I came up with a good one. Any of the, I would say that, so I broke my ankle and I woke up in the hospital and I had no idea where I was because it all looks the same. And so I asked the nurse, I said, can you write the hospital number up on the board? And thankfully there's a whiteboard. It wasn't some crazy Windows NT system or something like that. And so I said, just write it in 200-point text so I can see it at all times, even if, I'm on painkillers and I can't, really function. And so I had my cell phone and I was like, hey, you can visit me at the hospital. Here's my room number. And I would just routinely forget things. But at least that thing was right there, always ambiently telling me what room I was in. So when possible, always use the least technical solution, and only use the digital form if you absolutely have to. Good question. Thanks.
We have time for one more question if there's another one. All right. Thank you very much, Amber. Next up, we have David Holz.